each and every Monday, we have a special grace here because we go on the mark with the one, the only Father Mark Davis. Good morning, Father Mark.
Hey, Father.
Hey, Father.
Good morning, Dave and Pat and Ron. How are you today?
Good.
We're doing very, very well. And I want to say this. They say that Father Mark is like St. Francis in this way. The birds don't come to him, but he's very close to them because he's very tall. Like he's closer to them than most because he's a very, very tall man.
See, and I thought you were going to say he could make birds out of balloons or something.
Oh, and he could do that too.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Good morning, Father Mark Davis.
But I'll tell you what's really funny these days. I started my confirmation interviews with all the eighth graders in my parish, and it's funny whenever I'm with junior high kids, they always ask me how tall I am, and I say I'm 6'7", and they go crazy.
Oh, 6'7", right? Yeah, that's the thing, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Which I still don't understand, so okay.
No one understands, Pat.
Okay.
No one.
All right, okay, I don't feel so bad.
Yeah. Pat.
What?
Pat, I don't think we're supposed to.
Yeah,
okay.
Right. Yeah, we don't get it.
It's almost like an inside joke that makes them all giggle, and they don't even know what it means.
Right.
All right.
Because it's funny. But I was trying to find some inspiration this morning because we're starting Lent on Wednesday. So I got out my collection of Irish humor, and I found a story about two brothers, Sean and Seamus Reardon. And they were rich. They were the richest men in town, and this was about maybe 75 years ago. And they were really, really mean. They swindled the church out of its property. They foreclosed on widows and orphans, and that was just for starters. Finally, Seamus caught a cold, and it turned into pneumonia, and suddenly he died. So his brother Sean paid a visit to the priest at St. Bridget's, said, "Father, I want to make sure that the Reardon name stays bright and shining. You'll be given the eulogy for my brother Seamus, and I want you to say, Seamus Reardon was truly a saint." "I'll be darned if I'll do that," retorted the priest. "Well, now, I'm sure you will say those words. I own the mortgage on the parish school, and if you don't say those words, I'll foreclose you before you can say a Hail Mary." The priest was over a barrel, and then he had an idea. "If I say those words, you promise you'll sign over the note free and clear?" "Done," cackled Sean, rubbing his hands together. And then they had a deal. The brother could hardly wait for his brother's service. The next morning at the funeral, the priest began the homily and started talking about the brother. And he said, "Seamus Reardon was a spiteful, mean-spirited, evil, lying, cheating, arrogant, and hateful excuse for a human being. But compared to his brother, he was truly a saint."
That's great.
So I think one thing that story really brings to mind to me is when Jesus said to be as gentle as a lamb, but sometimes we have to be clever as a fox. And so I think our spirit is really always called to be connected to God, but then in the world, sometimes we really have to ask God for us to be clever, and use our head as well. As we begin Lent, I think it's really important, in my own opinion. I don't know what the three of you think. I think it's really important for me over the years to, when I have a plan for Lent with fasting and prayer and almsgiving, I think it's really important that we all write something down and commit to it. I often, when I say just in my head, I have so much that I don't always follow through. And we can always add extra things. But I think at least one thing in each category really needs to be having some commitment. I think that's really important. And if you looked at today's gospel, and you probably talked about it, Mark's gospel, Jesus was saying, I'm not going to give you a sign that God exists and God is there. The problem is, if our heart is not open to the presence of God, no one is going to be able to prove it. Lent is a time for us to make room in our soul. There's really something about trying to do things a little differently, trying to fast from things that we constantly go toward to be able to fill, our own needs. I think sometimes leaves room for us to be aware, not of a sign against our will, but to be aware of the presence of God that's always there. Arthur Brooks is a professor at Harvard, and his specialty is a Catholic. His specialty is happiness. And one thing he said at the Sikh retreat that really strikes with me, he said to all of the young people, he says, you're addicted to your phone, and so there needs to be some time that you fast from it. So as we go, I look at myself, whatever, if you're a person that scrolls sometime on YouTube or TikTok or whatever it is, or Facebook, it might be time to fast from that, just so that, if we're just used to just going and spending idle time somewhere on the line, that we just kind of remove that from our life or cut that down to make room for God. If we're used to going to ice cream or fast food or something when we're hungry, or when we're not hungry and we just want a little kick, it might be nice to give that up. When we're used to being able to hang on to our time or to hang on to our money, being able to give, to pledge a gift to the annual Catholic Appeal, to be able to give to a charity, or to be able to every day give some of your time to a phone call to someone who's in need, those things might kind of open us up over Lent so that we can feel the presence of God that's always there. Does that make any sense?
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Makes all the sense in the world. Absolutely fabulous. And I love it, love it, love it. Compared to his brother Sean, he's a saint.
He is a saint. Compared to me, everyone's a saint. God bless you.